My office. Do-do-do-do. Every day from well before dawn. Righty-ho. For 10 years, I have had quite organically, unplanned, 7 or 8 younger, independently minded, slightly politically minded people under my wing. Just in a free range way, but so sincerely. From the age of 18 up to a couple in the second half of their 30s. Now, I live in the provinces, which, despite London assuming otherwise, is still actually the majority constituency-wise of the electorate. Let's forget the P word. It's much more a case of, in regions like this, where in theory there's very low stress, I could be in one of any of half a dozen constituencies along the marches. It's not the West Midlands, although it's technically referred to as so because it's Birmingham is nearly 100 miles that way. Right, here's the point. If you speak with your BBC type, Hey on Why type chatterati, particularly the more senior educators, they will say things like, "Oh, our young people," and have been for about 15 years, "our young people these days are so magnificent." Well, I think they must be only encountering the most ambitious, sharp-elbowed, upper-middle-class young people. Because I genuinely kind of bounce alongside these young people over years. Those who really are not sucked into the kind of silly side of internet media and the world of the hype. No. I mean, I only take interest in those who, by definition, living in the environment, in other words, counties, constituencies where 90%, 95% of the land is given over to either agriculture or is proper decent environment, habitat, wilds. So yes, young people even in places like this, and I pick the ones who've read a lot of good books and can think for themselves and enjoy knowledge, haven't taken to education to impress or even to get on. No, they're complete and utter. They're in such a mess. They will fizz for periods of time and then they just burn. They go into every single one. They will just end up in the tunnel, in the abyss for weeks and weeks. It's utterly draining. But I plod on every day. This morning I'm trying to bring back out of an abyss my number one. Don't know what's happened to it. A few weeks ago, we were having a good chat. Anyway, here's the thing. Quite simple. Quite simple. The next election that comes in Britain, and I think I think I'm right, because despite our dreadful Liberal Democrats in this region, who are the only other option to Tory, all saying, oh no, 2 years away. No, I think it's not a case of something will happen. I think Sunak and company will be shown to be so shallow that the big beasts of the Tory party and the establishment, who still kind of rule the show, They will be so unimpressed. They will allow an election to happen next spring, summer. Politicians love elections in the summer. Anyway, I'd say it's at least 50-50, and now John Gray says so. So you have to prepare. It's as simple as that. Now, here's the thing. Here's the great thing. I mean, this is not a joke. This is not some hyped up, grandiose thinking that I think the great majority of young people, unfortunately, sucked into their machinery, do suffer from at times. I'm deliberately using this so overused and in some ways incorrect phrase. I'm an expert. Mania, bipolarity. Do we have that one yet? I don't know. Up and down. Yeah, they fizz up and then they have long periods stuck, frozen, maybe zombified or depressed. Right. Here's the great thing. This election coming is going to be the most boring election ever. Ever, 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 ever. Why is that a great thing? It just is. But it's going to be the most boring election ever. I mean, far too many people focus on names and personalities. It's what's gone wrong with the two-party system. And Britain, which is a celebrity-obsessed, personality-obsessed, personality cult-light, weird little place. But here's the point. So you have your Tories, which we all know are kind of fairly, they might not necessarily be mortally wounded forever, but talk about the worst PR ever. Almost certainly they'll flounder. They ain't going to come up with any magic. We know that. That's what we could say for certain. And Thatcherism, Reaganism, Thatcherism has already been done 30 years ago. But plus, we've already borrowed all the money as of 12, 13 years ago. So there ain't going to be new magic from the Tories. It's just not going to happen. And then we have this one figure, Starmer. Now maybe he'll have a heart attack tomorrow and disappear. But his gang around him, they're all pretty much the same. They're new Labourish. They're essentially neoliberal. And I mean, it's you can put it in one simple story, in quotation marks. It was said that, I think it was the day after Truss resigned, that the Labour grandees, the main figures in Labour, were all having lunch with the big corporations. New Labour, or Starmer's Labour, this iteration of Labour is going to be so in with corporations. We have the corporate democracy. That's it. Call it what you want. Neoliberalism light. But it's all, that's it. There is no debate in the next election. The people might want to debate, but there isn't going to be any debate because 95% of the candidates are more or less of a neoliberal bent. So there is nothing to talk about. There is going to be the same undercurrent dialogue and not real debate, because the Tories have a huge spin operation regarding the environment. It's yet to actually result in very much, but there will of course be on the agenda will be, I mean, all the parties. I mean, Labour are particularly useless on the environment, but that would have been different under Corbyn, I believe. But all the parties are going to have more or less the same line on the environment, and the people, their line will be, yes, we agree with the people, global warming, etc., which I'm sorry, we cottoned on to about 40 years ago. Pollution is equally as absolutely critical an issue, and they don't sort of put it in that way when they should. Anyway, keeping it simple. So there are going to be no issues. If there's debate tomorrow, 6 months, or a year and a half, there's going to be no real issues. There's no, that's it. You can call them, they're all this, they won't market themselves as centre-right, but they are in reality, compared to politics of the 70s, prior to Thatcher, prior to even sort of Blair times the first few years, they are slightly right of centre, neoliberal corporate whores. That's it. That is it. So, when you have nothing to drain your energy because there is no debate, why not bring back the one little issue? Or think about whether it should be brought back. The one that we accidentally let through in 2016, which incidentally, and this is shortcut language for years of thinking, debate, reading, listening to the commentariat, you can simplify it in the following: that proportional representation is a parallel issue to Brexit, because pretty much anybody who was a Remainer would also be, the majority would be for the modernising step. Modern's the key word. They should have used, if they used it in 2016, it's modern to stay internationalist and as close to the EU. Well, Corbyn did actually say, although they refused to allow this to be the narrative, but there's actually on the record, reform and remain. Reform and remain. That was his position in 2017 and 19. It was certainly 2019. No, he was on the record in 2017. Anyway, I'm not gonna. He's gone. That group has gone. There are no groups. There are no options. That's it. I can't remember if Dennis Skinner is still alive. I hope so. But there are no options. That's it. This grey, neoliberal, corporate. There are none who are even trying to sell themselves as anything else. That's it. No debate, no issues. So, could the twin issues in reality, but the only way to get that back into Parliament is if Lib Dems do well. Now, I'm into truth. The infrastructure of the Lib Dems in my whole region, and I've been checking the last month, 2 months really, is just a complete and utter joke. And I'll be writing with exactly what I've encountered. It's sad, because they are the only valid opposition or other choice to Tories in 20 constituencies around here. So, something has to be done about that, and it could be quite easily. But that's not the point of this. The point of this is, if you ain't got nothing else to talk about, bringing something, or rather, clever way of, clever, wrong word, a rather silly, but actually the more I think about it, brainwave, like, hang on a minute, could this just work? There have been instances, particularly in the 70s, 80s, 90s, of, it's the wrong way of putting it, people power. Something grabbing the imagination of the ordinary person, because it's in no way manipulated, it's not from any power person, it's not from any power source, it's not... I just had an idea that it does actually seem to be working. But I can't do it without a few people just to help me a bit. So simple. And even my grasshoppers, they don't answer stuff. And then there's one person. Oh, I really did invest a lot of energy and time into him. I thought he was totally sincere. And he's God Squad. And I've got it all recorded, you fucker. God almighty. Just like that. Now that's not politics, is nasty. That's, I'm afraid to say. You can't trust anybody in this country anymore. But this little... So know where the goalposts are. That's the key to happiness. And good energy. I know where the goalposts are. You can't trust anybody. But if there are a little clump of people just rolling this out, my thought, my idea, might work. Guess what? Nothing to lose. Absolutely nothing to lose. It won't be a case of anybody will turn against the little initiative, ask one question. There we go. Over and out. I just write now.